Hello, my friends. Lori Ashcraft here. I'm your host for Viva La Evolution, which is sponsored by Recovery and Resilience Solutions, which is a training and consulting branch of Crestwood Behavioral Health. Thank you, Crestwood. Today, we have a really interesting guest who has done some amazing things. And I've known about this program for a long time. It's called HOPE. It's in Sacramento, California. But I didn't really get how significant it was until my dear, dear, dearest friend, Paul Cummings, whom I have loved deeply for years. If you know Paul, you love him too. You can't help but love him. Anyway, he told me about this, reminded me about it. So I connected with them and they agreed to talk with us. So we'll be talking with April Ludwig, who is the executive director of this amazing program. There's several things that make it amazing. Well, first of all, it's extremely recovery oriented. It does all the right things with housing and services for people that need to be housed. It has a lot of services for addiction issues, and it hires a lot of peer support specialists, which, as you know, is my heart. And April brings up some interesting things that that don't often come up in these conversations. She talks about partnerships. She talks about being part of a community and working together. Now, the reason this is so unusual in behavioral health circles is programs have to compete with each other for funds. So the relationship starts off in a competitive mood. So when you've had to compete for something, and then you have to turn around and partner with people, you have to get over some stuff to do that. And this program seems to have done that rather effortlessly and set a really good example for the rest of us. So I know you're going to love this. And again, thank you, Paul Cummings. And okay, let's see what April has to say, and just enjoy the successes that they've had. They've been around for 40 years, and they're in 2 counties right now. I'm gonna stop telling you everything. Okay, let's just listen. Here we go. So April, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
So where shall we begin? There's so much to talk about with HOPE. Do you want to start with your mission statement?
I think that's a lovely place to start. So it's really important to know that what we do at Hope Cooperative, our goal and our mission is to transform the lives of those living with mental health challenges, substance use disorders, and homelessness. And we do this by supporting their independence, promoting their housing stability, and empowering them to make positive changes in their lives. What we like to talk about is whole person care. When we're working with individuals, we really feel impassioned to ensure that the whole person is receiving services and support as they are continuing to make changes, positive changes in their lives.
I love that. I love that. And you know, the other thing that comes through in that mission statement is self-determination.
Absolutely.
You're not so much telling people what to do as you are helping them find their own way and supporting them in getting there.
Yeah, we really feel that the individual is the expert on their lives.
Yes.
We are wanting to see their success, however that looks for them. We help to give them some choices, help to ensure that we're listening to what their concerns are, but also what their hopes are. And we try to partner with them on what those next steps look like. We really respect and value their voices, their choices, and where they see those needs are that they may be missing at this point in time in their lives.
That's fantastic. It's really, you're just a model program. That's partly why we really wanted to feature you, is so much of the things you are just stellar and right on. Let's talk, you know, housing is such a big deal these days. Everybody's talking about housing, and The
Absolutely.
governor keeps doing things to try to fix it, and the whole nation, housing shortage, all that stuff. So housing is a key part of your program, and which you know, without housing, it's hard to recover sometimes,
Yeah.
because it's hard to recover if you're living on a park bench somewhere. Can you say a little bit about your housing program and what's included in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. And you're absolutely right. We have so many conversations locally, nationally, that we're hearing about regarding housing and how that really is impacting us. Um, I think as not only a society, as a community, as communities, but also as a nation. So the services that we offer at Hope Cooperative, as related to housing, are interim housing, which is temporary shelter, transitional housing, or which provides supportive housing for typically 6 months to 1 year. Permanent supportive housing, which is long-term housing with on-site support services. Sober living, typically someone who's receiving services 30 days, who's trying to get into or become sober. We want to help individuals who are moving into their own sobriety. And we really think that these are multiple ways of supporting individuals who are finding themselves unsheltered or who are in their own crises with housing and trying to navigate housing opportunities, which I will say is not easy, even for those who've had recent housing or who don't seem to struggle with housing. I mean, especially in this particular day and time when we're talking about the cost of rent and the incredible we were thinking about market rates. Those are all really important aspects of individuals being housed and ensuring housing services are available. So we really want to support individuals in making sure that if they are wanting housing and have done the things that are needed for housing, that we're able to support them in that transition.
That's great. And that last you had like interim, transitional interim, and then you had a longer term, it sounds like. Is
Permanent supportive housing,
okay, yeah.
again, yeah, which is that long-term housing. And what I will say about the PSH, or permanent supportive housing, I want to be clear that we are absolutely mindful when we say permanent supportive housing. It's the intention that individuals can move into what is their permanency, their permanent plan for housing. For that, and for us, our partnership is that we want to provide those on-site services so individuals can not only be placed in housing, but have the support that's needed so that they can be successful as they're placed in housing. We truly believe that moving someone into housing without supportive services is not an answer to long-term success. And we want to support
It's a setup.
individuals in that.
It's a setup because
Yeah,
then people can't do it, and then they get blamed instead of being a poor
sure,
design. It's like, well,
sure.
people didn't do it. Well, if it was designed better, they could.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
we've had individuals who've said to us after they're placed in housing that someone asked could they didn't want to they wanted to move out. And when we asked them why did they want to move out, they said because my community is not here. This doesn't feel supportive to me. And so ensuring that individuals have those services, that they have that community, and they understand what that looks like for them by their own definition, we find more success with individuals staying successfully housed.
Yes. And you just hit on something so important. I've heard this so many times in my own work, and that is, um, we'll finally get someone a place to live.
Right.
And either one or two things happen. Either they have all their friends move in with them, and then they all get kicked out,
Sure.
or they leave because they go back to their community. And we know that community is so important for homeless people in particular,
Absolutely.
all of us, but homeless people. So,
Absolutely.
and we forget that being homeless is a community.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And individuals speak about that all the time. I feel safe with individuals who may have may be homeless with me or unhoused with me, or I feel safe in my community. And part of community is also where people live,
Yeah.
right? So it's not just who your network is, but it's
Mhm.
also where you are in your own space.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you've got, and that last permanent housing, that truly is permanent. They don't have to move out in 2 years or
So
some.
so yeah, that's a great question. So what we try to do and what we really believe in is for permanent supportive housing, and I think sometimes the term can repel people from thinking, that's just a band-aid. So for us, especially if we're working with individuals who want to move on to a next phase, this may be a safe place or a landing ground for a year, a 2-year period of time. We know that if we say permanent supportive housing, but we never open those spaces up again, that means not more, that means that more people, more individuals can't move in. And so what we encourage and what we work with individuals about is services, service delivery. What's your next step in terms of your community work, working, getting a job, being a productive part of our communities? We know that when people are doing all of those things to feel impacted and empowered, they typically do move on, which means that we now can open up that space for someone else who's trying to move into their next phase of their journey.
That's great. So it's kind of a blend then. It's like they could stay
Absolutely.
there as long as they need to stay there, but you really encourage them to move on um, to something that's more their own, like holding their
Absolutely.
lease, for example.
Absolutely. And so when we think permanent supportive housing, it really is that connotation that, okay, you're forever housed, forever placed here at this particular maybe apartment or complex, whatever that is. We'd like to say that once you have created your space and you feel confident and empowered and maybe you're back on your feet, then what a great opportunity for you as a community member to move on, allowing someone else to move in.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if this would be helpful. I'll just share it with you. Something we did is one of our partners, I know you're going to talk about partnerships. One of our partners was apartment finders. Are you familiar with that? They're
Not familiar with apartment finders.
okay. Well, they're like home finders, but it's apartments.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
if you need an apartment, you call apartment finders and they know where to go. And so they were one of our partners, and they would help people find an apartment. And then we would help, because sometimes apartment owners would go, well, I want to see your history or your,
Sure.
well, we would stand behind that and say, we're going to help with this. We've got services coming in. If you have a problem, call us.
Mhm.
So, and then after a while, we had like a team of apartment owners that
Yeah,
worked with us because they knew we were there. They knew we had their back, and
I
we
love
both
that.
wanted the same thing. We want the person to be successful.
That's right.
I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it's just,
It's well, it's very helpful. And what I'm excited about in listening to that is that we recently hosted a landlord event
oh,
in
good.
May. Yeah, so we hosted that in May, and what a great turnout we had.
Yeah.
Individuals who were either looking to lease or rent their apartments or their houses, and they worked with our. So we have a team of technically housing navigators
Mhm.
and ensuring that individuals can move into different houses in the communities, hopefully of their choices. And so we had individuals who we partner with often, and they spoke on what a great benefit to have Hope Cooperative kind of act as the bridge or the liaison
Yeah.
between the renter as well as the owner, and we got a lot of traction with that, and that's something that we're going to be doing annually, this event where we get to bring information to individuals who may want to rent their apartments or their houses but don't really know or sometimes feel confident in doing that. We'll
Mhm.
be the bridge. We'll take that responsibility on.
And people want to help each other. We
Absolutely.
don't see this so often. We see people kind of circling their own wagons, but
Right.
if we can tap into that part, that human
Yeah,
being part of wanting to be part of the solution, we find it in the most unlikely places, I think.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah.
I hear a lot of people saying, again, going back to homelessness and, prevention is I don't like I don't like feeling that I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. I don't like seeing people unsheltered or unhoused, but I also don't always feel comfortable talking to individuals on the street. I don't feel comfortable giving money. What can I do?
Yeah.
And what we come back to is use your voice. We want you to be a part of helping uh, figure out the solution. And so the more you can be in spaces and share and listen and be open to possible opportunities for helping, there are so many things that individuals can do. And often people just say, I don't know what to do. And we say, do something. We have a board member who shared, I want to do something. I don't want to feel powerless. And so I looked for an organization that provides services to working with individuals who are unhoused, who are homeless. And I chose, based on what I was looking for, to be an advocate, a partner with that organization. And we're so thankful to have that board member. And so
Yes.
doing something, it
Yes.
matters and it makes a difference.
I love the point you're making. I think most of us drive by homeless people and our hearts go out and we don't know what to do. We feel like there's
Right,
nothing we can do. And we
right.
think our tax money is going to solve it. Well, we've
Sure,
seen that that's not working. It
sure.
really does take a village. It takes all of
It
us
does.
to
It
participate.
does.
And you giving people a way to do that is just key.
Right.
It's one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We truly believe in collaboration and partnership. Partnership for us means our community. It means the individuals who live in our neighborhoods. It means our clients. It means our other providers who are serving alongside us. For us, it's not doing the work and believing that we're going to solve all of these challenges by ourselves. It's relying on our partners to say, what do we do well and what do you do well? And then how do we partner to support the individuals who need the services in which we all provide? Sometimes I find that because there are so many nonprofits here locally, that we typically find ourselves working in silo, but it's so important to not do that. So
Right.
important to
Right.
to reach out and to work collaboratively, because collectively we can do much more than we can by ourselves.
I love that you're saying that. And I know that you, along with just about every provider of mental health or substance use programs, you end up competing with each other for
Sure,
funding. You all
sure.
respond to the same RFPs and so forth. And so once that mentality of competition gets set in place, it can overshadow the need to partner.
Sure.
And I love that you've just stepped beyond that competition into collaboration.
Yeah,
We should all
absolutely.
do that.
Well, there's so many great providers locally. I could name a slew of them. There's so many great providers and they're excited. They're on fire to do this work, passionate. Believe in our causes, believe in the work that we can make a true and definable difference. And so why wouldn't we tap into that shareable space?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I would rather be in partnership than doing this work by myself. It
Oh my
it's
gosh.
not just that it takes a toll on the individual who's coming and asking for support. It takes a toll on our workers, on our team members as well. So why not partner?
Yeah, that's the way to go. I
For
just
sure.
love that you do that. And you're mostly like for 40 years or something, you've been in Sacramento County, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been in Sacramento County for 43 years. And recently, well, 3 years ago, we started to provide services in Yolo County as well. So we're in Sacramento
Great.
County as well as Yolo counties, providing continuum of care, whole person care support to individuals. And that's from housing support and assistance to mental health support, as well as substance use disorders, really looking at the individual and working with them via harm reduction or really assessing what their needs are and how can we support and who the individual is.
Yeah, that's great. So I know that services are a main thing that you do. It's so important to help people stay housed. Can
Right.
you talk just a little bit about what services your folks do? And
Oh,
I know that some
absolutely.
of your employees are peers. I'd love to hear more about that too.
Yeah, for sure. I always get excited, so you'll have to temper some of the conversation. So when we talk about peers, our peers have such rich and diverse experiences, and those backgrounds are often so valuable because they help us to better understand maybe what other individuals are going through. And even myself in this space that I'm in as a CEO, I have my own lived experience, and so some of that directly impacts how I show up and how I see the world. Growing up as a child with a parent who has mental health challenges and still does to this day, how that impacts the person and your values and what you experience as a child transitioning into adulthood. Even substance abuse disorders, I had that in my family as well. And so trying to understand what that meant for me and trying to understand that as the child, but also as the adult that I am now, really influences how I see the world, how I work with individuals, and how I experience them. That's the same gift that so many of our peers get to bring to the work that
Right.
they do.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting, isn't it? Because we have all these experiences that we think damaged us, and they did, let's face it. Um, uh, and yet once we start helping other people, it turns into a gift that we can give. And it suddenly
Absolutely.
has some meaning. It's not just a bad experience, but there's some meaning to it.
Yeah, I love that point because we're not always able to understand the why as we're going through those experiences. But I love to think of it as resilience. We are beyond resilient as humans and as individuals. And so being able to utilize that resilience to give hope and a sense of value to others is beyond anything I probably would have thought as a child. You know, I mean, when you're experiencing these different things going on in your lives, and sometimes those things happen to be trauma, right? But as you're experiencing it, you're really just in survival mode.
Mhm.
But as you can understand, and usually what happens is someone else comes along in your own journey and they help you to see the value that you have beyond the trauma, beyond the experience. And to be able to share that with others, it makes it makes the work that we do, I dare say, because my team would look at me and say, this is not effortless, but I think it makes the work we do significantly impactful and incredibly powerful for ourselves as well.
Yes, yeah. It turns all those negative experiences into a gift, like something we can give
Absolutely.
back. Yeah.
Absolutely. You did ask me about the services that we have, and I want to make sure I share those. So, services
Okay.
that we provide at Hope Cooperative are case management, housing assistance, support, and subsidies. So, making sure that individuals have sometimes a meal, having just direct basic needs met. We provide psychiatric services, medication assessment and monitoring, advocacy and referrals. Sometimes referrals are to our partners in our community, in our communities. Talked about that. Partnership is a value to us. We provide substance abuse recovery and supportive services, assistance with Medi-Cal, and making sure that individuals can get their benefits or medical necessities or medical needs met, skill building activities, and our peer supports. So we really do believe in continuum of care, which is from start to finish. What do you need? How can we help? Those true empowerment and recovery skills and goals are really important to us as an organization. And we really try to ensure that the whole person is seen, is valued, heard, and supported.
And by whole person, what I'm reading into that is you're not just looking at what's wrong with somebody, which is the mistake that our clinically oriented service system does. But it sounds like you're looking at what's right with them. What are their strengths? What can you mobilize?
Absolutely. There's so many beautiful strengths that people forget that they have. And so sometimes just sitting with someone and asking them, what are you interested in? What are you good at? What do you enjoy? I went into one of our, so we have three core wellness center. They're actually called core our core programs. And we have three of those. One is Core How, Core Marconi, and Core X. And they're named after the street that they're on. And so I was visiting Core X recently, and an individual was drawing on their tennis shoes and had so many different pens and markers. And if I could share the beauty of the artwork, I mean, it was beautiful. And I was looking and, oh my gosh. And so we engaged the individual. He's like, oh, I love doing this. It's peaceful for me. It's healthy. And I'm like, you have a gift. It's a beautiful gift. And he's a part of our art class now. So those are the things that, helping to admire and value what an individual is beyond what you may see walking through the door. We all have our own gifts, and it is important to stop, listen, and discover what those are for each of us.
Yes, it is. And I think, if we can tap into a person's creativity, that's such powerful energy to mobilize.
Absolutely.
Well, you're a big program too. I was noticing you have 300 employees, maybe something like that.
We have close to 400 employees
400.
now.
Wow.
Yeah, we are a really big organization, and so what we do is provide a collection of services. And so I'll talk a little bit about what those are. So I mentioned our core programs already. There are 11 core programs, and this is in connection with Sacramento County Behavioral Health. And those core programs, there's two parts or two components to it. One is a wellness center. Adults 18 or over, doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you have, anyone is welcome. Sometimes we have individuals who come in because they just are lacking connection, engagement. I feel so isolated. I want to come in just to be in community. I want to play bingo. I want to listen to karaoke or be a part of something like that. Yeah. So that's our wellness. We also offer individuals a snack or a meal at that point in time. Individuals can come in and get some basic needs met. We have showers and laundry facilities as well in that wellness opportunity. And then we have outpatient services, and those are for individuals who may be seeking some additional and maybe long-term supportive services. And that can be working with our psychiatrists, med management, therapeutic services and support. So we have three of those, though there are 11 throughout the Sacramento County. We have our FSP, which is full service partnership programs, and that's here in Sacramento as well as Yolo counties. We have our CLTP, which is our substance abuse prevention program. And so we have two service delivery opportunities at our in our organization where we can support individuals through their recovery, their substance abuse recovery. We also have sober living environments for individuals to seek and to be in community with other individuals who are going through those recovery supports as well. In addition to that, we have our housing programs, and my gosh, if I start naming those, they are many, many. And in the housing, we do work in partnership and in community with multiple funding streams: Sacramento County, Sacramento, the city of Sacramento, city of Citrus Heights, city of Folsom. So we do work in partnership, city of Elk Grove. We're moving into that direction as well. And then we do provide permanent supportive housing, like I said, the transitional living interim, as well as SLE, which is our sober living environments as well. Other programs, case management, like I said, therapeutic support, outpatient, medical supportive services. So really you see that whole gamut from basic needs to full service partnership to housing.
Wow.
And so anyone listening, if I've skipped anything, we're going to make sure you have access to our website too, and you can see the whole continuum of care that we offer.
Well, if all of that's going on, what would you like to add that you don't have? Is there anything you don't have that you'd like to add?
Oh, I love that question. So there is still this opportunity, and this is a vision that I have for our organization. And right now we're really continuously focusing on providing those excellent services, partnerships with our community partners, other community providers, housing services, sobriety, harm reduction. We're really wanting to stay focused on adult services, ensuring that we're offering as much support as possible. However, there are some opportunities specifically related to individuals, especially our transitional age youth.
Oh gosh.
So this typically is our age of between 16 to 24. And so leaving or transitioning from children or childhood or adolescence and moving into adulthood. And so one of the things that we're continuously seeing are individuals who are coming into services as adults. And we think, what if we were able to support with some prevention and intervention? We have so many incredible children's providers and so many incredible adult providers. But somewhere in the middle are these individuals who are not children and they're not quite adults, but they're moving into adult services. And so the opportunity to get ahead of that, to partner more with our children providers, partner more with our adult providers, and to say, let's be more proactive, more preventative, and hopefully we can impact in an amazing way individuals from really transitioning fully into adult services. So how do we become that bridge between children's providers and adult providers and disrupt individuals, transitional age youth, from needing those full services as adults? That's what I'd love to see as our next chapter.
I'd love it if you did that too. And I've just had my eye on that group for years. So some of them, they age out of children's programs.
Yes.
And then what?
Yes.
They're not necessarily an adult. They could get picked up. But instead of a bridge, you're talking about a bridge. There might be some people that need the bridge. I'd like to see an exit ramp, so they don't go into adult services.
Yes.
We start to see what's up with them
Yeah,
as, I mean, that's probably the most vulnerable time in any of our lives, is that transition.
absolutely.
We can step
Absolutely.
in at that place
Yeah.
and focus on strengths, give them something meaningful to do
Yes.
that means something to them, a
That's right.
purpose.
That's right.
I think we could reduce the demand on adult services significantly just by inventing a way for people not to go into adult services, but still have a really productive, interesting, creative life.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. And that bridge that I speak about is between children's and adults. So
Yeah,
not necessarily that group, but how do we partner more, right? Because
yes,
there's children's providers, there's adult providers, and then they're split based on where you fall in that kind of age range. And
yes,
so if
yes.
we can bridge ourselves better, then I do think that in partnership, we can work in tandem to reduce those individual youth, those youth who are in such pivotal moments in their lives, and not really, and I'll say this as hopeful as I can, we don't want to introduce them into adult services. We
Right. Yeah,
want
really,
to
yeah,
stop that as much as possible. And
yes.
what I don't mean not to be a support, not to be a resource. We
I
want
get
to be a resource, but if we don't have to introduce our adolescents into full adult services, where sometimes they'll get stuck. If we
Well,
could
their
prevent that, we'd love to do that.
identity is so fragile at that point.
Yes.
So if we say
Yes.
to them, you're now going to be an adult mental patient. Oh, instead of, I mean, why wouldn't we focus on, let's have an identity that's meaningful
Absolutely.
and purposeful,
Absolutely.
and not just carry forward
Yeah.
whatever has got. And let's face it, adolescents um, exhibit so many symptoms that could be
Yes.
labeled as a mental illness, and they're just normal adolescent behaviors.
They're still forming. They're
Yeah.
still forming, right? And so I know so many of our other providers, especially here in Sacramento County, we really want to figure out how to reduce the number of individuals that we're serving. And when I say that, what I really mean is that if there's other things that we can do collectively as a community for individuals who may need something different, as opposed to, okay, all we have are the next steps, and that's adult services.
Mhm.
Let's get ahead of that. Let's
Yeah.
figure that out, because at the end of the day, there's so much innovation. One of the things that makes Sacramento County so incredibly beautiful, Yolo County, all of our counties, like our state overall, is our innovation, our willingness to try, our willingness to say, let's figure this out, let's pilot something. And so I'd love to see something more developed and supported for individuals as they're moving into their next stage of life.
Yes, I would love that too. I hope you can do that. That
I'm
would,
hopeful.
yeah,
I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful. And we have so many team members and community partners who are excited about how do we change? Like, it's not too late. How do we become transformational in this next step of individuals who are moving from adolescence into adulthood?
mhm, yeah. I know you have a range of funding streams, but I also know that you accept donations.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to put that on the screen so people know how to donate.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Are there other
So
things that we haven't covered that you want to
yeah,
add?
I'll speak for donations just for a second. So,
Okay.
in regards to donations, and thank you so much for putting our website link to donations up. We really are an organization that believe in whole health care, supporting individuals, and ensuring that if someone has stumbled, if someone has their life just looks a little bit differently than your own. We ask that if you're able to, please help us continue the work and the mission that we have as an organization. We have some other things that we do outside or in addition to donations, and that is we have Big Day of Giving, which happens the first week. I think it's the first Thursday, I want to say, of May, and all nonprofits typically participate in that. We hope you'll consider Hope Cooperative as you're making your incredible gift and your donation. We really appreciate any support that you would be willing to offer us. And then the other thing that we have annually is our Stand Up Sacramento. And this year it falls on October 18th, Friday, October 18th. And that's going to be at the B Street Theater at the Sophia. And it's from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. And you can purchase tickets on our website. It's a night of comedy. It's a night of fun. We do some auction off. We auction off some items. We do fund a need. And more importantly, we sit in community and the spirit of Sacramento. So if you're interested in coming to that, that would be wonderful. We'd love to see you there.
Great, great. Well, April, it's just been a delight to chat with you.
You
Thank
as
for your
well.
time. Thank you for all that you folks do. And just wish you the best.
Thank you so much. Anytime you want us back, we'd be more than happy to come and attend and speak.
Okay. We'll come back for an update in a few months, maybe.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it. I think I kept my promise by telling you that this was going to be an interesting interview. And for me, it's just heartwarming to see there's these programs like this out there doing all this good stuff and doing it right. That's wonderful. So thank you for joining us. As always, please push the subscribe button. Always forget to say that. So it would help us a lot. I don't understand why, but I just know it will. And you don't have to understand it either. Why did we ever think we had to understand things? Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. Love you very much, and see you next time.